Good morning. Back in the confines of home. Sorry for a little bit later launch than usual today because I wanted to see the kids. Wife drove them to school, so I'll hit you now. Hope you're well. Uh, Lots of things to talk about, jazz related, ton of tip off questions. I hope you joined us on the vocal. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Yesterday, that was a good deal of fun. The coolest part about that vocal is that if you didn't join it, it's up on Locked on Jazz. You can go back through it, and then questions that you're interested in, you can look at. Uh, so that it's, I think it's really cool. You can just go find each question individually. You can tweet out ones you like. You can embed them on your site. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. So I hope you like it. If you have any suggestions on how to make it better, let me know, and we'll figure out. I'll try to move it to different times of the day. I kind of think that the best times are either noon or night, and there aren't a lot of nights. So give me your thoughts on that. Lynn Sanity. He did it again. It's crazy. I mean, it's really crazy. He's good. He's not this good. This is ridiculous. It's the same way. I wonder, I actually have a thought here. Deep philosophical thought for the day. So Tebow's okay, but he's not as good as he plays late in games. And the only thought I have, and I don't know if this is true or not, or has any validity or anything of the sort, but let me just throw it out there. So Tebow and Lynn both kind of exceed their talent levels to go on these momentous runs. Both are very, very religious. And I wonder if the guy that's truly that religious, I mean, it's one thing to say you believe in God. These guys are on a different level, I think. I wonder if those guys are able to play with a level of confidence because they believe that there's an outside influence carrying them through, whereas the regular player worries about something going wrong or has a doubt or worries at a different level and doesn't have the same confidence. Any thought on that? I'm just throwing that out there. That would, this is usually just kind of a recap of what's going on with the Jazz and stuff, but if I was hosting a talk show today, that would have been my old school opening smash lead right there. The other one, by the way, that I'd be working on, and which I'm going to do, and I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm going to go through as many years of history as I can. I think I'm onto something in this idea that if your first or second primary possession user in the NBA is below the league average in using a possession, that you're screwed. And I'm going to guess that if you go back through that you find in almost every circumstance that team was below 500 and struggled. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna do that research at some point here. So anyway, NBA was crazy last night. The Jazz, we'll touch on them in a second. I really have hit almost every topic from that hour-long thing the other day, but not all of you checked it out. So, and it wasn't podcast. We're working on getting up on Stitcher. For those who use Stitcher, we're going to be up on iTunes. We're already up on iTunes. Trying to make this easier for you. But NBA-wise, there's a bunch of really interesting stuff going on. Phoenix last night just threw in the towel in a game. They didn't play Steve Nash or Grant Hill in Denver last night, which let Denver then break its 5-game losing streak. Denver lost Gallinari, and everybody found out how good he is and how important he is. But you know why? Because on the numbers end of things, Gallinari's using about 15, 16 possessions a night as one of the most efficient, top 5 most efficient players in the NBA, and they suddenly move those possessions to another guy, and suddenly they don't win. Which begs the question, if you got an inefficient guy using 15 to 20 possessions, and you move them around to the other 20 guys, and they're more efficient, don't you start to win? That's on the offensive end. Let's go to the Kevin Martin defensive end. Kevin Martin barely played again last night. Now they got hammered last night by Memphis. I'll tell you what. I was talking to a player in the NBA on this, and I thought this was really interesting. I was talking about how we're trying to figure out what's wrong with. I think it was a player. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who the conversation was. I was trying to figure out what's wrong with Devin Harris. I'm babbling all over the place, by the way. And we're trying to figure out what's wrong with Devin Harris. And I said, you should have seen him walk to the bench after or walk to the bus after the Memphis game. He was just beaten, completely beaten physically. And the guy said to me, someone needs to check what everyone's record is after they play Memphis. And I said, why? He goes, because they just beat the living crap out of you. Someone needs to look into what everybody's record is after Memphis. The Jazz fit into that. Played Memphis and then came out dead in back-to-back games. I don't think they came out that dead last night. I thought they just missed a ton of shots. Oklahoma City's a lot better than the Jazz. And we saw that last night. I mean, they're just a lot better. By the way, Kevin Martin last night, 18 minutes and scoreless. They have just sent him away, which is interesting. You know, I used to be a huge Kevin Martin fan because he just comes off as such an incredibly efficient offensive player, but his teams never win. He's not good defensively. He's not tough, and I watched him quit last year against Raja, and I just wonder, how much – and he's a ball stopper, and ball stoppers kill you. Jeremy Lin is proving that right now. Every article that is coming out is about Jeremy Lin. There are stories right now on Jeremy Lin. The amount of blogs in China that mentioned him was something like 1.4 million Chinese microblog mentioned him in the last few days, which doesn't seem that big in China. China is completely sold out of all Jeremy Lin jerseys, and as someone pointed out, all counterfeit Jeremy Lin jerseys. I mean, what a story. Guy sleeping on the couch of his brother's house is now the number one most talked about athlete. Craziness. Love it. Fabulous story. A few other things going on in the NBA. Miami is really rolling. And, I don't know if people are taking notice of it, but LeBron James is having one of the greatest offensive seasons that a player can have. I ran my Locke offensive numbers on him yesterday, and he is in the Michael Jordan realm of a season from 91, 92, 93 when Jordan was his best. The old school numbers on LeBron, 28 points a game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. But the other numbers are even crazier. He's shooting 55%. He's cut down on his three-point shooting, which isn't necessarily good, but he's shooting at a higher percentage at 37%. He's going to the free throw line 9 times a game and hitting 76%. There have been very few players in the history of the game, and I probably could look it up on basketballreference.com, who are scoring with the efficiency that he's scoring that take 15 shots a game or more. I'll try to look that up at some point today. There are Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and that's probably it. Probably it. All right, to the Jazz. They got beat last night by a far better team on the back end of a back-to-back. And everyone loves to talk about effort. Oh, I just don't care if they lose. I care about effort. But what happens when the guy you're going up against is just so much better than you are? I mean, I'm not trying to kill our guys, but our guys aren't as good as their guys last night. Now, New Orleans is a different story. And when you're going up against somebody who's not as good as you are, then you don't look like you're putting in a lot of effort because they're better than you are. I thought our guys last night just missed a ton of early shots, and it wore them out. And they've lost 7 of 9. And when you start losing 7 of 9, things wear you out. You play without a lot of confidence. And and things are hard to deal with. And that's where these guys are right now. And, you know, I just, I don't know. We're not the most talented team in the league. We're going to win because of 1 through 11 plays well. We have great depth. Our margin of error is really slim. And yeah, we put out incredible effort. Well, the whole darn year we've been talking about this. I've been telling you, maybe some of you hear me and some of you don't, uh, that because it takes such a mammoth effort each and every night for us, that there are going to be a lot of nights where when we're a step or two short of that effort, because you humanly can't do it every night, then we don't look very good. And that's happening right now. The schedule's getting tougher. We're playing better teams. We're traveling more, and we're just and a bunch of our guys aren't playing very well. And I think a bunch of our guys are. I'm not sure. Each one's got their own case. Some of our guys aren't playing well because we're asking them to probably do more than they're capable of doing because we don't have that lead dog. Other guys aren't playing well for whatever other reasons, and then other guys I think we're being that aren't playing well, and then we're forgetting to notice the things they do well along the way also. And one I would point out, Devin Harris is certainly not playing well. Okay, there's no question about that. He's certainly not playing well. But I'm running down the numbers on this team. We got like 3 guys that use a possession above the league average. We're really scuffling offensively, and we're somehow 10th in the league offensively. So how is that possible? Well, because it's possible because we don't turn the ball over and we get offensive rebounds. By not turning the ball over, don't we have to give a little credit to the point guard who's not turning the ball over? It's probably the most important thing this team is doing right now is not turning the ball over. It's as poor a shooting team as we are, it's getting us extra shots. So let's realize that. You know what? These guys aren't quitters. These guys put out effort. They're not insanely talented. Back end of a back-to-back was tough. The game in New Orleans happens. It sucks, but it happens. It shouldn't happen that much. But I don't know. I'm not going to defend him the way I want to right now because I don't want to piss anyone off. So how's that? I just bit my tongue. It's a rarity a little bit. You know what? I guess I don't have a problem with some realistic understanding of who we are as a team, which is we may have a top 30 player in the NBA, we may not. Most of our guys right now aren't starters in the NBA. Devin's playing off his game. Gordon's probably not all the way there yet, though he's playing really well. And Paul, I don't think we were wrong. I still think he's the best third big in the NBA, and you're asking an awful lot of him to be a starter. So, I think that's who we are. And some nights we just got to suck that up and realize it and reward the effort and watch the progress of the kids and enjoy the process rather than having conniption every single night. But you know what? That's what the league is right now and a little bit of where we are. So I think that's, I think that's a little bit of where we are as much as I think. All right, let me hit a bunch of tip-off questions. Do you think we should do what the Mavs did with Dirk, sit Harris down a few games and have him work on his health? Second question is Harris a competitive person? I'm not sure anyone really knows how Devin has slipped as far as he has. And let's be clear about when we're talking about Devin slipping, let's be clear about what we're really talking about because we might be being really, really unfair here. He's not impacting games. We don't play necessarily in a manner and in a system by which he usually how he would impact games. Now, I would say some of the things he usually does, that full court push, tempo changing, things we're not seeing out of him in the same way that we have in the past. But if you really go look at Devin, he's shooting 44%, 43.6. His career is 44. He's shooting 29.9 from 3. His career is 31. He's going to the free throw line less than usual. That would probably be the real eye opener that he just doesn't seem to be getting the line. That also might have something to do with his free throw struggles, though. For whatever weird reason, he has not uh, he has not been able to get to the line. He's going to the line the fewest amount of times per game, if anything, other than his rookie year, which really was before Avery kind of changed his game and took him away from shooting the three. And his assists are down, but his minutes are way down. Actually, his assists are no down to what they were last year. So some of this criticism of him, and I would agree that he's not the player. He's not playing as I would have thought he would have. I mean, he's just not inserting himself in the game in the same way. But some of it's a little unfair. Some of it we're just really spoiled from watching Stockton and Darren. But I agree. He looks disengaged at times, and but again, you look disengaged when you're not playing well, and it happens. So I guess you're going to get me awfully often to talk about these guys, but how they're playing. For the most part, I think these guys really do try to do their best, and so I will almost always defend unless I see otherwise. I mean, Paul looks disengaged like he's not playing well right now. Paul Millsap plays hard. He's just not playing well. And therefore, he looks disengaged because he looks frustrated. Do I think Corbin should go back to starting Favors? I thought Corbin should have started Favors from the beginning of the year, and I thought he was right on that. And then, unfortunately, Favors didn't play along with getting the 2 fouls in the first 2 games, and Ty was forced to make a change, and now I'm not sure what he does. Because now if you put Millsap on the bench, you're blaming Paul indirectly for the struggles of the team, and that's not fair. And I think that's so I think that's a very, very hard thing. We talk about players earning time. Hasn't CJ and Josh earned the bench? Yeah, I was a little surprised we played 11 guys last night, but basically that's where Ty was last night. He put Alec Burks in the rotation spot above CJ, and then he did circle CJ back in to try to keep him engaged. I think that's the answer is yes, but you also just can't bury guys and leave them at the end of the bench and lose them for the year. You're going to need these guys at some point to give you some minutes. If we go to a 3-man rotation of Gordon Hayward, Raja Bell, and Alec Burks, Raja Bell burns out and stops playing well. And I thought Gordon looked pretty heavy-legged last night also. All feelings and fandom aside, is it possible Al Jefferson is the mellow of big man? Yes, it is. That is tip-off. Hope you are well. I am tired. My voice is actually sore after 3 straight games in 3 nights, so I'm going to rest for much of the day. Probably write some things up on the internet. Check Locked on Jazz. Talk to you soon.